So we have a very interesting panel discussion now. Growing importance of Robusta and coffee blends. That's the session theme, which you will be witnessing over the next hour or so. And please give a big round of applause to the ladies and gentlemen here on the dais who will be taking us through this session. Ms. Sunalini Menon, President, Coffee Lab Limited. So she is chairing this session. Mr. Amir Hamza, Chairman, African Fine Coffees Association. A warm welcome, sir. Mr. Kailash Nathani, Managing Director, Sukafina. Mr. Wendy Muhammad, Technical Project Officer, Agriculture, SNV. And Professor Lucas Lauzada Pereira, Researcher, Federal Institute of Espirito Santo. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you, and to our audience who've come here this early to be part of this session. Once again, a big round of applause before I ask the chair to take over. Thank you.
Good morning, and welcome to all the delegates. I know it's a little bit early in the morning, and we have quite a bit of traffic on the roads this morning. So I hope it gets filled up by the time we are in the middle of the session. I think today we are going to talk about the growing importance of Robusta and coffee blends. Now today, when you look at coffee, it's an important cash crop. It not only brings in foreign exchange to a country, but it also supports the lives of many farmers around the globe. Now, the story of 1960s was the story of the coffee bean extricating itself from the fruit. But since then, many waves of coffee have been seen and witnessed and experienced by each one of us in the coffee industry. Let's take a look at the demand and consumption pattern. When you look at the demand, the consumption, the production, you'll find that consumption has overtaken the production figures, which I think is going to be explained very well by Mr. Natani. Now, these are the figures I have. I mean, approximately the production is said to be about 171 million bags, and the consumption is about 178 million bags. Now, when you look at the genus of Coffea, there are about 131 species, but the commercially viable ones are Arabica, Coffea arabica, and Coffea canephora. I think I'd love to use the word Coffea canephora. It sounds a little more exotic, and perhaps people will look at the bean with a little more respect. So I think from henceforth, I'm going to use the word Coffea canephora. Now, if you look at the Arabica, now this has been the front runner of the coffee industry, mainly due to its aroma and its very, very exquisite flavor notes. But today we're experiencing climate change. We're having many difficulties in the coffee industry. And so you see the emergence of Robusta very, very significantly. Robustas which provide the punch and verve to a coffee cup. And with processing, you can have some really, really exotic flavors. I mean, I was very surprised to see that an anaerobic fermentation brought in guavas and bananas to my coffee cup, which I never saw when I was growing up in coffee. Now, today, if you think that, the emergence of Robusta has only been seen today, we have to go back to the 1960s when Robustas were used to manufacture soluble coffee. And here we have on my right Mr. Amir Hamza, who set up the first, I think, instant coffee plant in Africa. So you see, from the 1960s, Robustas have been in use, and they have provided a drink which perhaps spearheaded coffee consumption in certain parts of the world where tea drinking was very prevalent, like in India. The north of India, they drink mainly tea, but today you have lots and lots of coffee being drunk. You can see a lot of coffee cafes. The young Gen Zs and millennials setting up cafes. I mean, it's such a wonderful experience when I walk into a cafe. Of course, they look at my gray hair and wonder why this old woman has come in. But then at the same time, they also embrace me coming in because they know that, I'll drink another cup of coffee, which means that their consumption in the cafe would go up. Having said that, if you look at the production of Arabica versus Robusta, 60% of coffee produced in the country is produced in the world is Arabica, and 40% is Robusta. But today, with the weather pattern being so erratic with climate change, it is stated that cultivation of Arabica by 2015 may not be sustainable, which means that the emergence of Robusta is going to be very significant. If I look at the Robusta bean, it has so many advantages. It can grow at a low altitude, it can grow at a high altitude. Higher the altitude, maybe my yield is less, but I have some very distinctive flavor notes, which enables me to get a better price for my Robusta, though the quantum could be a bit low. Again, when I look at the Robusta, it is so resilient to so many pests and diseases. And most importantly, it provides me with a lot of, components which are good for health. It has, of course, a higher soluble solid content, but most interestingly, it has a high level of chlorogenic acid. And chlorogenic acid lowers your blood pressure. It also helps in the liver functioning. And most importantly, it has a positive effect on the regulation of glucose and thus the development of type 2 diabetes. Having said that, I have a very, very, erudite and eminent panel here on the stage today. And I think I'm meeting all of them for the first time today. And I was just reading the biodatas, and I was really, literally taken off my cup of coffee. So I'm going to introduce the first speaker of this morning. The first speaker of this morning is Mr. Amir Hamza. He's a highly accomplished Tanzanian with nearly 30 years of experience in the coffee industry, chairman and CEO of Amir Hamza Limited, a family-owned company that has built the largest state-of-the-art spray-dried instant coffee factory in East and Central Africa. He's the chairman of the National Quality Association of Tanzania, chairman of the African Fine Coffees Association, fondly referred to as AFCA, as well as the AFCA Tanzania country chapter chairman. He will speak on the scope of mixed beverages with Robusta blends. Mr. Amir Hamza, the floor is yours. Please.
Good morning, everybody. As my chair, Honorable Madam Sunalini has said, because speaking in front of her, first of all, is very difficult for me because she's a guru in coffee and started a long time and she knows everything. Even if I don't speak, she can speak everything here and finish. But good morning, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming here. And I thank the World Coffee Conference and ICO for giving me this chance to do a presentation. I'll be doing this presentation mainly on scope of mixed beverages with Robusta blend. But before I start, I would like to invite everybody, as the chairman of African Fine Coffees Association, that AFCA will be having its 20th Fine Coffees Conference and Exhibition in Ethiopia. This will be first African Coffee Week, and it will be from, as you see, from 6th to 9th February at the Millennium Hall. And I wish everybody among you can attend this. This is going to be a very good experience, and this is going to be in collaboration with Ethiopian Coffee and Tea Board, African Fine Coffees Association, Inter-African Coffee Organization, and ACRAM. That is all the coffee institutions in South Africa are joining together in this exhibition. I will be explaining about Robusta, and mainly we'll be having further 6 pages here. And we'll be talking about unveiling coffee varieties in mixed beverages, evolution of mixed coffee beverages, Robusta's unique contribution, Robusta in mixed beverages and blend innovations, Robusta's sustainability in mixed beverages, and conclusion and key takeaway. When I started in coffee in 1993, 94, Robusta was just a filler. Even according to the government regulations for getting a curing license for Robusta, you just needed to have a catador and a huller to make sure that after curing, all the husks are removed. There was nothing like grading. There was nothing like cup testing. The coffee was sold on appearance, physical appearance. Even the storage of coffee, Robusta coffee, was not that strict like it used to be for specialty or Arabica coffee. So when I started in 1993, and then from that day to day, things have changed. Things have changed. Now Robusta is becoming a very important coffee that without Robusta, one cannot really have a nice coffee the way I know. In every place you go, you find Robusta is added in one way or another into the beverages which we enjoy, as you will see in the further presentation. So looking at the variety and types of coffees which we have in the world, of course, as Madam said, we've got so many varieties, but the 4 known varieties are Arabica, Robusta, Liberica, and Excelsa. And you find that these other varieties like Liberica and Excelsa are very minor, 1.5% of the total world global production. So more emphasis on Robusta and Arabica. And as you know that Arabicas originated from Ethiopia. Nearly all the coffees which I know, these 4 varieties, you find they originated in Africa. And Arabica from Ethiopia, you know the taste of Arabica, smooth, sweet, and a stronger aroma. I cannot talk about it because our chairperson, she is expert on this, and also everybody nearly sitting in this room, you know about cup testing, and you know the tastes of Arabica. On the Robusta side, also it originated from Africa. It has got earthy, bitter flavor and profile. And today, from African continent, the biggest producers of Robusta, Uganda, and Tanzania, plus other countries. But worldwide, you got Brazil, you got Vietnam, you got Indonesia, you got India also producing good qualities of Robusta. Then we go to Liberica. Liberica also originated from West Africa. It's got floral and fruity aroma, smoky wood, flavor profile. Then you go to Excelsa, grown mainly in Southeast Asia. And today, currently, these 2 coffees, Liberica and Excelsa, are more in Philippines, Vietnam, and also in India. And I've seen in Vietnam, I think they are doing crossbreeding and doing some research in combination with Robustas, and you get very nice cup tests from those coffees, and you get a bigger volume per hectare from that type of variety. Of course, when you go in marketing, as a Tanzanian, I'll say my Robustas are the best in the world, but you get different taste, and it depends on who wants which type of taste. You come to India, first time I saw the washed Robustas were from India. And also, I saw people taking Robustas from various countries and then doing extra processing. For first time in Italy, I think, I saw the steaming of Robustas and polishing again, so that in order to change the taste of Robusta to have a different type of profile. So these are the types of coffees which we know, and we are mainly concerned here today. I'm concerned with Robusta mixes. And looking at Robusta, this is the bean of Robusta, how it looks like. And I think everybody among you who has seen Robusta, you know that, and as Madam also said, that Robusta is grown from 0 altitude up to 1,500, and also above that I've seen Robusta plants growing above that height. It requires rain of around 2,200 to 3,000 millimeters of rain per annum, and temperatures between 18 and 30 degrees centigrade. Robusta is a highly resilient crop, so it does not need a lot of chemicals or other treatment. You can grow it very easily. Being a resilience crop, you find farmers really opt to go for Robusta, although the price is also a bit down, but it is better. And the look of Robusta, you can see the way it is looking, the center curve and everything. It's beautiful. The bean is really beautiful. Once you fall in love with Robusta, you will always enjoy Robusta. Because in our country, people sipping Robustas on the streets, if they are giving the best quality of Arabica, they spit and they say this is something for those weak people, it's not for strong people. So they find something sour to add it into the coffee to make it more strong. On the production side, you find nearly between 25 to 40% of the total global production of coffee is Robustas. We don't have accurate figures because to get very accurate figures is up to now is a problem with many countries, but expected is between 25 to 40%. Robusta has got very high caffeine content, and this is the one which is now bringing up Robusta in many fields. You go for energy drinks, you go for juices, you go for sodas, you find caffeine in it, and you find coffee is added into it. As I said, the price is low, and it's affordable, and the taste is super. I don't want to go into details of the taste, saying the acidity or what is there, and everybody, the champions are here, they know. The evolution of mixed coffee beverages. As you can see in this slide, we got historical perspective, centuries-old practice of coffee blending for flavor, balance. 17th century European coffee houses introduced diverse concoctions with coffee. They were mixing other things with coffee, other drinks with coffee. Espresso concept emerged in Italy during the late 19th century. Today, everybody who is a coffee drinker has to have an espresso. You find either in the morning, or if he missed it today, he will have it tomorrow, but without espresso, the life will be a bit difficult for him. Modern innovations today, coffee mixing has evolved dramatically. Artisanal coffee houses, mixologists lead the change. Espresso-based drinks, cold brews, and specialty lattes now popular. You find in every coffee house there is a signature drink there, and it has got a mix of various coffees. And usually, majority of the coffee houses, they use more Robustas in order to make profit. As you know, Arabicas are very expensive. So you can have something called Arabica, and you find that it's got Robusta. I personally visited a plant in the world, a freeze-dried plant, and on the label of that product was written the best selected coffee beans. But when I went there, I found it was Robusta. And I never expected Robusta to have a freeze-dried soluble coffee. So Robustas are really very important, and Robustas are the ones which make coffee drinkers enjoy the coffee. Robusta's role in transformation. Robusta enhances mixed coffee with its boldness, its higher caffeine content. As I said, energizes espresso-based drinks. Robusta's unique attributes inspire innovation in coffee art. Going to your Robusta's unique contribution, you can see a picture there on the slide. This shows mixed farming in my country, because 90% of the coffee grown in Tanzania and in the African continent, most of the countries, comes from smallholders. And we got the high-end, big, large farms, estates also. But in the smallholder, where majority of farmers, we are talking of living income for farmers, the farm is like this, something like this. You got banana trees, you got coffee, you got cassava, you got beans, all mixed up like this. And on another side, you can see a photo there, picture of a local coffee called Kamani. I think day before yesterday, we had a professor who was presenting there at the main hall regarding eating your coffee. Why can't you eat your coffee? In fact, in Tanzania, we do eat coffee. And this coffee is called Kamwani. It is usually immature, Robusta green cherry, which is picked from the plant, from the tree. It is boiled together with various herbs, maybe tulsi, maybe other grass, which bring in aroma. And then it is dried. And then it is well preserved in dried banana leaves. And usually, whenever a VIP person comes to your house, you put it in a grass bowl. That plate is made of grass, handicraft, and you present it to him. So he's a VIP person. Just like in India, I think we go sopari, or you give mouth freshener to your guests who come there. But this is a bit for high end. And also on the other side, you can see coffee plus Coca-Cola. The world is changing. Nobody expected Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola to have coffee. Now they are labeling officially that you take Coke. And from my experience, last I was in Portugal for quality training, quality championship training at Umino University. And at my age, with these white beards, after 12:30 or 1, you are totally down. So the lectures were really long. And then they were giving us very nice lunch. So after having the lunch, you really feel like you want to doze. So I was taught a trick by one of the professors who also was a student there, that just after lunch, you go to the cafeteria and have the double espresso shot. So I took double espresso, then I added in a glass of Coca-Cola on top of it. And then I was fresh like in the morning. So that was my experience with it. And then I came to find even Coca-Cola have taken this up. So the world is changing. You can see Robusta is being added into all these drinks. And I can say 100% this coffee plus Coca-Cola used Robusta. And distinct flavor profile. Robusta has got bold, earthly, slightly better flavors, complements sweeter Arabica notes, adds depth and complexity to the mixed coffee beverages. Also, it enhances the texture and crema. Robusta's high caffeine content creates rich, lasting crema, elevates visual appeal and mouthfeel, integrated crafting, exquisite coffee blends. Whenever I want to have espresso, if I don't see the crema on top of the cup, sometimes I think maybe this is not properly brewed from an espresso machine. But that crema is, you have to give the credit to Robusta. Robusta is the one which forms that crema. Essential for espresso-based drinks. Robusta adds body, strength, and delightful coffee kick. It gives you a kick. The way I said, when I drank double espresso with Coke, I got a kick. Indispensable in creating these beverages, inspires innovations in coffee blending. Robusta is getting important day by day. Robusta in mixed beverages and blend innovations. Robusta was his versatile component. As a versatile composite, bold, robust character enhances mixed coffee beverages, ideal for espresso, cappuccinos, and lattes, provides body crema and satisfying coffee punch. Coffee blend innovations. Robusta's presence catalyzes innovations in coffee blending. Roasters and baristas experiment with different Robusta and Arabica ratios. Robusta inspires creative coffee blending, unique flavor profiles. Through Robusta Arabica ratios, artisanal espresso blends, flat whites, cortados, etc. And you can see here, we got a picture of course, these are the blends originating from our area. This has got soluble coffee blended with roasted and ground coffee. So this is blend. And we blend, on top of soluble coffee, you also blend roasted and ground Robustas. And this is same with, you find Nestle, Lavazza, and others following up. Starbucks Via was the first in 2008, during the world financial crisis, they started this type of coffee. But everybody has got his secret of what he's using, whether that roast blend has got Arabica or Robusta on top of the soluble coffee, which is Robusta. But this is a trade secret. But in fact, Robusta is the one behind all this. And you go to the fruit juices. First time in my life I saw in SCA in US, I drank juices with caffeine inside. You can have your orange juice with caffeine, caffeinated orange juice. You can have different type of juices. As my time is running, I have to finish fast. But on the other side, you can see the local street coffee drinkers in Zanzibar pouring the coffee from a kettle, and you can see different flavors of the drinks. Robusta sustainability in mixed beverages. Of course, my friends will be talking about sustainability and responsible sourcing, sustainable cultivation, ethical considerations. Conclusion and key takeaways. Robusta's researchers. Robusta coffee's experience a resonance in mixed beverages. Its bold flavor, higher caffeine content, and adaptability make it invaluable. Evolution of tastes. Mixed coffee beverages continually evolve with changing consumer preferences. Robusta contributes unique taste profiles and rich crema to enhance experience. Sustainability and ethics. We'll be talking about it, and we've been talking about sustainability and ethics. Innovation and customization. The future of mixed coffee beverages involves innovation and customization. Expect developments in flavor experimentation, brewing techniques, and personalization. A brighter future for Robusta. Robusta coffee holds immense potential in mixed beverages. Let's embrace this potential for a brighter, more sustainable, and flavorful future in coffee industry. Robusta is the way forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mir Hamza. I think, I'll probably put the questions and, answers, discussions a little later. So I would now like to ask my next eminent speaker, Mr. Kailash Natani. He's a coffee enthusiast and having a degree in law and professional accountancy. Presently, he's staying in Bangalore, referred to as Bengaluru very fondly. Having vast experience of more than 20 years of working with the coffee industry in India and Africa, he has good knowledge with analytical skills of global coffee supply chain. Previously, he worked as the managing director of Yugacoff, a Sukafina group company in Uganda, and presently working as the MD of Sukafina India. Mr. Natani will speak on the sourcing opportunities, the industry trends, and forecast of Robusta or Coffea canephora coffee. Mr. Natani.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Amir Bhai. Good morning, everyone. Already, my brother Amir told that there is a good future for Robusta. I would like to inform one thing to everybody. All of you know very well that most of Robusta is produced by smallholder farmers, unlike Arabica. 80 to 90% of Robusta is produced in smallholder farms, either in Vietnam, Uganda, Tanzania, India, Ivory Coast, or any other country. Even in Brazil, Arabica is produced in big farms, but Robusta is produced in the small farms in Espírito Santo. Now, my topic today is sourcing, industry trends, and forecast of Robusta coffee. So, sourcing today, there are various methods of sourcing available for the roasters, for direct sourcing from the farmers or through middlemen, and things are changing because of the technology. A lot of online e-commerce companies are also selling coffee today. Robusta coffee is also. The trend is increasing. 40 years back, Robusta was just 10% of total blend. Today, it is going to 45%. The production is also increasing, and money-wise, if you see, the farmer is benefiting. The smallholder farmers are benefiting because of less resources required, less water required. In many countries, water is a big problem, and because of that reason, a lot of farmers are, including in India, a lot of farmers are changing from Arabica to Robusta, mainly because of the water, because of the labor shortage, because of the other farm inputs are required. So my next slide is global Robusta supply. You can see from this that in 13-14, from 65 million bags. Now we are almost about 80 million bags projecting in 2024-25. This is the price arb between Robusta and Arabica. You can observe from this chart that moment the arb goes up, Robusta prices also go up. And in some of the cases, now the arb is bit down, but still Robusta is going up. So this shows that there is a good demand of Robusta. Always there is going to be good demand in the coming time as well. So even the arb is down, but price of Robusta is up. And you can observe from last 2-3 years, Robusta prices are, almost stable about $2,000, except few months last year. But otherwise, prices are. The next is the global Robusta demand. So you can see, you can observe from this chart that the demand is growing from 13-14, which was about 50,000 bags, 50 million bags, sorry, which was less than the production. Production that time in 13-14 was about 65 million bags, but the demand was less than 50 million bags. Now today, the production is about 80 million bags, demand is about same or little bit above. Like say in 24-25, the production is about 78 million bags, but the demand from the, this thing is about 79 million bags. So there is a shortage of Robusta as of today. That's what we are observing. From this chart, you can see that global Robusta balance is, you can observe that, earlier in 13-14, it was in plus direction, but now you see in 22, 23, 24, and even 21, 22, much below the, the availability is less than the demand. That there is a deficit about 5 to 6 million bags as of now. And because of that reason, you can see the stocks in London, the certified stocks in London. Those who know about the certified stocks, the London terminal, they have some certified stocks. So then when the prices are lower, the stocks goes up. When the demand is lower, then stocks goes up in London Coffee Exchange. But when the prices are high, always the stocks goes down in London terminal. So from this chart, you can see in 13-14, London was having about 15,000 plus certified stocks. Now it is less than around 10 million bags only. So the certified stocks are reducing, which says that the coffee prices are going to be either stable or going to go up, mainly because the certified stocks in London terminal is going down from 15 million bags in 2013 to 10 million bags now. So this is the main presentation from my side. Any questions? If there are any of the questions for forecast or for sourcing, you're welcome, please. Thank you. Thank you so much.
If you would permit me, can we have the questions at the end? I hope that's acceptable. Yes, thank you. We come to our next speaker, Mr. Wendy Mohammed. He is SNV's Agri-Food Advisor. He has been instrumental in driving sustainable coffee initiatives in West Java, Flores, and Papua in Indonesia. The work involves an inclusive coffee value chain through good agriculture practices, multi-stakeholder forum, private sector engagement, institutional strengthening, and access to market. More recently, he has promoted a coffee agroforestry approach to local farmer communities and empowered local multi-stakeholder organizations to manage water resources. Interestingly, during his free time, he runs his own coffee roasting business. He aims to create a stronger connection between farmers and consumers while also building up community networks. Mr. Wendy Mohammed will speak on the synergy between roasters and small growers. Mr. Wendy Mohammed.
Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to say thank you for the opportunity that been given to me to attend this big international event in India. My name is Wendy Irwandona Muhammad. I'm from SNV Indonesia. Been working there since the establishment in 2013. I would like to share you about the synergy between coffee roaster and small grower in Indonesia based on our case study and interventions. Before we started, I'd like to inform you the coffee in Indonesia. Well, actually, Indonesia is one of the largest coffee producer in the world, with a coffee plantation approximately around 1.29 million hectares that mostly grow for a Robusta plantation, and the remaining 30% is Arabica plantation. In 2022, our coffee production reached around 794,000 tons, and most our coffee production were resulted from the smallholder, so around 98.6% of the total production came from small grower. So if you can see it in the map, the coffee was distributed from the eastern part of Indonesia until the western part of Indonesia. Due to its bigger plantation that we had, of course, the problem also bigger for us. This is the overview of the challenge of coffee sector in Indonesia, including the low capacity on adoption on good agriculture practices, access to market, in the infrastructure as well, and so on. But I'd like to underline that there are some of the challenges we currently have, including the land use and land cover change that happen in some or several locations in Indonesia, and also the water deficit that affect the post-harvesting practices of the coffee, either it's Robusta or Arabica. In Indonesia, SNV work in several locations from eastern part to west part of the nation. We were working since 2013, focused on 3 sectors: in agriculture, water, and energy. And we have working on the cross-cutting issues, including the climate mitigation adaptation, gender and social inclusion, as well as governance. At our intervention in Indonesia, we had several projects in the West Java, it's the western part of Indonesia, in the middle part of Indonesia, and in the eastern part of Indonesia. We are working together with the several donors, including the Danone for Foundation, as well as the UKCCU from the England. Our approach in Indonesia, we are using the inclusive coffee value chain, where we include the low-income communities to engage with the value chain and introduce the off-takers so that they can collaborate together with the growers. We have an experience to working with the several actors and multi-stakeholders to have a sustainable coffee production in Indonesia, including Arabica and Robusta. In here, we are trying to engage with the market, where it's the key points of the sustainable coffee, to get the greater impact through the collective action, such as a water impact, the emission, as well as the increased income. Here are the 4 case studies that I would like to share with you within our approach. So the first one would be the capacity building. for the farmers and the farmer community organization. The second one would be the value chain improvement. The third one, our approach in the conservation. In this case, I would like to share you about the watershed protection, and the last is the policy advocacy. The first one, the capacity building for the coffee farmers and organization. We work together with the farmers and the farmer organization in the upstream level in the several locations where we trying to strengthening the capacities of both farmers and also the organization to have long-term business relationships. It is not enough if you want to train only for the farmers. You also need to increase the capacity of the organization that will work with them as well. In our location, we are trying to engage with their business development capacity so that either the farmer and the farmer organization can set up the access to market for themselves. We know that some of the markets maybe look up for the specialty coffee, but there were always market for another grade of coffee, even in the low grades. In our intervention, we identified that contract farming is the one that can be applied, or any supply arrangement, which is important to build on the trust, transparency, accountability, and risk sharing. Why do I put it risk sharing here? Because sometimes it is inevitable where the production of the farmer itself maybe not fulfill the criteria of the roaster itself or the off-taker. So it is important to know that. The fixing prices on the contract farming mostly doesn't work because of the unexpected situation. But we need to focus on the clear agreement on quality and quantity aspects that become the key of the negotiation itself. I'd like to introduce you to one of our beneficiaries. This is Mr. Yafet Wetipo from Papua. He is the first native Papuan who has a roaster certification. In this, one of the project, our project in Papua province, we had several difficulties, including the logistical problems, where coffee mostly grown in the highland, where the transportation and logistic is very difficult. So it is important to the roaster or the off-taker to ensure that the market is sustainable and the quality from the coffee grower is according to their standards. We have capacity building for him where he can establish a roastery business and learning center. He developed an interesting business model, and we are interested to to support him in the program. But during the project implementation, we faces challenges where the supply from the coffee grower is not sustainable, and most of the inputs are difficult to be taken. That's why he created his own supply chain through direct relationship from his farmers that lives in the mountain area. His family members or his family tribes link the market, and he set up some of the facilitators to control the quality there. After that, he established the cooperative together with the farmer groups, the facilitators in each region, to strengthen the organizational and capacity to generate more working capital, because we know that there are lack of quality processing and some of the facilities still inadequate. Until recent, he already established his value chain, his own value chain in this Papua region. He even initiated a Robusta plantation in 5 districts, as well as the government support also contribute on his intervention. The next one, this is one of our current project in one of the region. We try to approach the coffee intervention from the landscape approach through the watershed protection. So there are key actions to address land use change and increasing water consumption issue here through regenerative agroforestry. We were trying to include the farmer, growers, and the CBOs, or we can say here, it's coffee roaster, the community tourism group, and farmer forest group to have a joint movement to conduct conservation practices in the location area. In this area, we work nearby the National Forest Park, so it is important for them to know, understand how the watershed protection should be done. We initiate the payment environmental services scheme where farmer or landowners agreed to take certain action to manage their land. The small coffee producer here, we need to have a contribution where they can gain economic incentive and intrinsic value through the services. So we encourage them to planting the trees, building terraces or coffee crops to have a greater contribution on the water impact as well as the carbon emission. The CBO's role, or the coffee roaster, which is one of the community-based organization, should ensure the business are sustainable. They should encourage the social environmental protection in this location area. Later on, to generate or to trigger the payment environmental scheme, the CBO should monitor and becoming the advisor for the coffee growers there so they can providing their services. Our latest approach, which is the policy advocacy, we, together with the national coffee platforms, Sustainable Coffee Platform in Indonesia, namely SCOPI, to have a joint collaboration. We share the same outcomes, including the transparency and the supply chain more learner, improve corporate productivity, as well as the alignment of the government policy and the program. In this joint forum, we are included the farmer growers and the coffee roastery to join with the movement in the forum so that we can connecting the dots between each other. We can also collect the aspiration from them, from the actors that within the forum as well. And we provided the knowledge management where we trying to increase the good agricultural practices for the farmers and the post-harvesting practices. We communicate as well with the government, or we need to align with the government policy what we need in the local level or the national level. So the platform itself became tools where we can advocate the government still. The last one is the sustainability standard and geographical indication. In some of our location project, it is important to have not only in the national level, but on the local level, where together with the whole actors, sharing the same interests and sharing the same goal. So here's the gallery highlight from Indonesia, where our project location conducted, including in the Papua, in the West Java, as well as in the Flores Island. So before I ended the conversation, I was inspired by the communities that I've been working on with. I share the same understanding with my organization to create a greater change for them. So we committed to share our lesson learned practices and our expertise to have a movement in the coffee, for the sustainable coffee in the world. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wendy Mohammed. We have the last, who's Dr. Lucas Pereira. He holds a PhD in Production Engineering from the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. He is a professor at the Federal Institute of Education, Science and Technology of Espírito Santo, and also teaches in the master's degree program in agroecology and the doctorate degree program in chemistry at the Federal University of Espírito Santo. He is a licensed Q grader, serves as the head of science at Coffee Design Group, and his research has primarily focused on quality control and processing with a special emphasis on the coffee chain. He actively investigates spontaneous and induced fermentation processes in coffees and conducts research in the fields of chemistry, biochemistry, and microbiology. He applies different matrices to understand the factors influencing coffee quality. He will be speaking on the trends, opportunities, and new horizons for specialty canifora in Brazil. Dr. Pereira.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. I prefer to stay here because I'm a really small guy. It's more comfortable for me. So I'd like to say thank you so much for the invitation to WCC, to ICO, my colleagues. Today, I'm going to speak a little bit about the trends, opportunities, and the new horizons about specialty caniferas in Brazil. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the caniferas in Brazil, the terroir concept, processing and fermentation, applications for caniferas, and some scientific and results and trends in canifera supply chain in Brazil, and conclusion. So I'd like to emphasize some scientific projects that we are making in Brazil, in a special case about the coffee metabolomics, the conilon single origin, and a specialty microbiota. It's very important to discuss about this project because we are trying to understand the quality in a different perspective, in a different way. If you'd like access some scientific papers, please take my contact and just let me know. It's about the global scenario. This is the Arabica and Robusta producing countries that we are seeing here. I'm moving so fast these slides. And this one, Arabicas in the green, and had Arabicas and Robustas, and blue, just Robustas. And the last one, for us in Brazil, the conilons came from Guinea and Costa do Marfim, and Robustas came from Congo. It's so important to understand this. I have a question. How many hectares do you think our Brazilian coffee growers are using in this moment in Brazil to produce a specialty coffee? For Arabicas, less than 1% of the country. For caniferas, less than 1% too. Look about the possibilities for the coffee growers in Brazil. If we consider the aptitude just to produce coffees, we don't need to make the deforestation in the country. Brazilian coffee growers are protecting the forest. In this part, the map, we can see a lot of possibilities for caniferas. In a few years, Brazil gonna be the major coffee canifera producer in the world. Brazil is the coffee nation. And we are working so hard to increase the quality of caniferas in Brazil. So this is the map about the soil in Brazil. It's so important to protect the Amazon region because this structure of the soil and the water And I'm living here in Espírito Santo state. But look at the production about the conilons in Espírito Santo is increased so fast the last years. And we are a very, very small state in Brazil, and we are producing 15 millions of conilon bags in Espírito Santo. It's a lot of coffee, conilons in Brazil. So, to understand the quality, it's very important to understand the climatic condition, the topographic and edaphic condition. Because the temperature, rainfall, humidity, mountainside, and the condition of the biology, the physics, and the chemistry in soil can affect a lot of the microorganisms, the chemical, and the quality of the coffees. So, the first result that I'd like to share with you today is about the biotechnology applications in the conilon fields. We made some collections in different points in different regions in Espírito Santo to understand a little bit more about the network of the microorganisms on the soil, the coffee beans, and to try to understand the quality. Let's see the first results. And here, I'd like to emphasize about the forest fragment around the coffee plantation. It's really, really important to protect the forest. And here we can see the benefits about the forest fragments to reduce the solar radiation inside the coffee plantation. And these parameters, it's so important to understand the microbiome. And the next slide, it's possible to see, for example, I don't have forest fragment around this coffee plantation. We have in here, and here the mountainside. And the solar radiation affect a lot the microbial community and soil and the coffee bean. And these microorganisms can change the chemical and the sensorial profile. So, what's going on? What's happening in Brazil in this moment? The coniferous is going to the high side of the mountain because the climate warming is real, and some Arabica coffee producers are removing Arabicas and introduce coniferous, conilon, and Robustas, and we published this scientific paper to demonstrate the possibilities to produce coniferous in a high altitude like this one. So in here, it's possible to see the climatic condition about these new areas, the temperature, the rainfall, the soil type, and the quality. So what's happening with coniferous in Brazil? They are inducing a fermentation processing. I'd like to share this scientific paper if you'd like to read. They catching up the Arabica coffee process because normally people say, we need to develop some methodologies for coniferous. No, we don't. Arabicas, coniferous, excelsa, is coffee. Coffee is coffee all the time. We need to understand what's going on, what's happening inside the coffee beans to develop a specific methodologies for Arabicas, for coniferous, for excelsa, wherever. And we need to respect the quality about these coffees. And finally, we falling behind the regular post-harvest processing to select just the special coffees to make a special coffees. So, about the post-harvest processing and the fermentation, this is the common way in the world. A lot of people make a full wash, wet and dry naturals. Now in Brazil, we are studying some applications with yeasts, bacterial, carbonic maceration, and the other processing. I'd like to demonstrate just some results about carbonic maceration that we are making scientific approach in Brazil. And we developed a few years ago some bioreactors to control all parameters inside the fermentation process, to control the temperature, to control the pressure, and to provide a maze condition for the microorganisms work. In this tank, we're going to see 3 tons per bat, and this one, 9 tons per bat. So carbonic maceration is a process that explores the adaptation of the intact fruits without oxygen, and the CO2 promote the anaerobic fermentation condition for the microorganisms start to work. In Espírito Santo, in Brazil, we are applying in 36 to 38 Celsius degree for 4 to 5 days. It's a very fast fermentation. It's possible to change the sensorial, the chemical, and the microbiological profile of these coffees. So, and here it's possible to understand a little bit more about the microbiome inside the coffee cherries when we are applying the fermentation and the carbonic maceration. So, and here it's possible to understand a little bit more what's happening with the sensorial profile. It's increased 5, 4, 6 points, and the microbiome change. It's completely changed when we decide to apply this temperature for 5 days. So it's very important because there are a lot of people in the world use some fruits, milk, or other materials to make a fermentation. I totally disagree with this because it's not necessary. We need to understand the behavior of the microorganisms inside the coffee cherries, and they can provide amazing sensorial opportunity to enjoy with these coffees. And we published the scientific paper, I think last year, to demonstrate the benefits about the carbonic maceration. You can use this if you decide. And here it's possible to see the chemical and the sensorial profile was affected and impacted by the carbonic maceration. It's possible to increase 5 points with 38 Celsius degree for 5 days inside the tank to make a fermentation. The last one is about the time of fermentation. In this scientific paper, we apply pulped and natural process to understand the metabolites and the chemical composition inside the coffee beans. So it's very important to understand that after 72 hours, the chemical composition inside the coffee beans changed. And after 72 hours, we need to decide what time we're going to stop the fermentation to protect some chemical compositions. And here it's possible to see the methods, the process is totally different. This one, we're going to see the relationship between about the time and the processing. And for us, it's very important to study the lipids, the fat oils. The fat oils provide a lot of good answers about the chemical inside the coffee beans. So finally, I'd like to share the last results. In 2020, in the pandemic situation in the world, we decided to travel 38,000 kilometers around Brazil, me and my colleagues, to study the microbiome in the coffee areas in Brazil. And we made a lot of experiments. And these points is the Arabicas, and the yellow points is Canephora. And we made the sensorial analysis, the microbiological analysis, chemical, edapho-climatic condition. And this picture is so important because in here we can see the whole community, the biodiversity about the microbiome and the specialty coffees in Brazil. Look at that. Arabicas and Canephoras are totally different. Look for soil, the fungi community. The fungi community, it's totally different. It's very important to understand this. They are different, but it's possible to work together. Before to make the fermentation, to make some process to decide which species I'm going to introduce in the new area, we need to understand the soil composition, the microbiome composition, what's going on with these coffees, with these areas. And finally, I'd like to share the last result about our scientific study. It's so important to understand this parameter, Bio14. Is about the precipitation of driest month. To produce a specialty coffee, the altitude is important. For Arabicas, yes, but for Canephoras, no. For Canephoras, we need water. to get water, we need to protect the forest. We need to keep the forest around the coffee plantation. Because this, I'd like to say, I'd like to congratulate the India because we saw a lot of biodiversity in the coffee plantations here. You are making an amazing job about the protection of the forest, the agroforest systems. And we need to understand that a lot of these parameters can work together to promote the quality, to promote the specialty coffees in the world. Finally, we are studying the genetic diversity, focus on final quality, the microbiome characterization of the coffee regions, develop a friendly post-harvest processing, understand the sensorial profile of coniferous, re-education of the supply chain, and demystification of negative imagine of coniferous. It's very important to understand this. To drink a pure conifera without blends. Coniferous don't need blends. Believe me, it's possible to drink a single cup of conifera. We need to understand the chemical, the sensorial profile to join with these specialty coffees. And the conclusion, finally, the final quality is a result of a series of factors that are endogenous and endogenous correlated in a balanced relationship between the field and the post-harvest processing. The microbiome, it's a very important part to understand the final quality, and the fermentation is a critical point. We need to study more, we need to understand more about the fermentation. We need to understand coffee is a food and it requires hygiene all the time. Coffee is food, please be careful. Fermentation processing can provide the new opportunity, but we need to understand the symbiose, the mutualism, and the microbial association about the microorganisms. And please keep studying and never get tired of learning. I'd like to say of my team, the scientists that we are working with me, it's so important because they provide a lot of database to demonstrate, to share, like this presentation today. This is the part of the group, the sponsors and the partners that provide the opportunity to come here. And this is my university. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pereira. It's been a very interesting journey on fermentation, which is very close to our hearts today. So I would now like to throw the floor open for any questions. So if there are any questions, I think if you can hand over the microphone. We have time, so.
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned you had toured the Indian coffee plantations.
Could you just introduce yourself, Mr. Bopanna, because they would love to know who you are.
My name is Bopanna. I'm a coffee grower from the district of Coorg. My question to you is, first of all, thanks so much for sharing a lot of information on what's happening in Brazil, and all of us are very curious all the time to get an understanding. So I'd be very curious to know what are a little more in detail the differences you see between Indian Robusta growing, our agroforestry systems, and what you've been doing in Brazil as part of your research. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think this is a very important part. Normally in Brazil, we don't have a lot of agroforest systems working like here. And here is totally different. I think you have a lot of biodiversity working together. And in Brazil, we are trying to understand the benefits about the agroforest systems. But I think the principal challenger for Brazilian coffee growers is about the productivity. Sometimes when we decide to introduce agroforest in Brazil, some people say, oh, okay, it's so sustainable, but we're going to reduce the productivity. And for me, in my opinion, I think the best combination is to understand the biodiversity, to understand the microbial diversity on the soil, and the forest can provide this. I think if you decide to make some adjustments in your system here to increase a little bit more the productivity And to understand the network about the microorganisms inside the forest, we're going to see a really, really special coniferous Robustas in your country.
Thank you. And yes, the next question.
Hi, my name is Ujjwal Jaipuria. I export Robusta coffee from Indonesia, mainly from the Lampung region. My question is for Mr. Kailash. In your slides, you said that one of the graphs you showed that the demand for Robusta coffee was decreasing for the next 2 years from this year, from 2023, 24, and 24, 25. And if the production is increasing and the usage of Robusta is increasing as what we've heard today, why was your slide suggesting something else? Or what is the reasons for decrease in the demand side?
Thank you. It was a very good question, actually. Okay, so why the demand is decreasing in the coming years? There are two main reasons for that. One is that in the past, just 2 years from now, the Arabica prices were very high. So people were blending more Robustas into Arabica. Now when the Arabica prices has gone down, so for sure the trend will reverse. So little bit people will reduce the blend of Robusta. That is one reason. The second reason is that inflation is very high across the globe. So demand, overall demand of commodities is reducing. So that is another reason for reduction in the demand. And third reason is that the interest rates are very high. So countries like Europe and even US, which used to store a lot of coffee, now roasters are going hand to mouth kind of, you know. They don't want to store a lot of coffee and pay a lot of interest on the stocks. So that is another reason that the demand is going to be lesser than. I hope the question is answered.
Thank you, Ms. Natani. Yes.
Thank you. I have a question for Amir Hamza. After listening to what is said, and also Professor Lucas, that we used to see blending of Robusta and Arabica in roasting, and whereby we see some of the roasters, they steam up Robustas and blend with Arabica. Now, what is the future of our farmers now, especially in Africa, compared to what, with regard to new development from Professor Lucas? Thank you.
I think he wanted you to answer that. Yeah?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's on.
Thank you very much. Your question regarding the future of farmers for Robusta, there is a very big, fine future because the demand of Robusta is increasing. And as I said, that there are many new varieties and mixes of Robustas coming up, like fruit juices, like we are moving towards maybe chocolates and candies, and also food with Robusta, which is coming up in research. So there is a very bright future for Robusta growers. And one of the reasons you find in Tanzania, now Robusta is 50% versus Arabica. Previously we were down, now it's coming up. Next door, Uganda is also adding up the crop. Robusta is an increase in cultivation, and it's very easy to cultivate Robusta compared to Arabica using the chemicals and modern fertilizers and this and that. So Robusta farming and Robusta crop, from my perspective, the farmers are going to benefit more from Robusta than Arabica. That's what I'm thinking in our countries.
Thank you very much. Sir, could you know which part of the world you come from?
Thank you. I'm coming from Tanzania, and actually I was a bit worried from developments from Lucas, but I'm optimistic that what Hamza said will give me a relief. And maybe to add on, sorry, Madam Sunaling, I heard Professor Lucas said coffee is food. I think to date, coffee is not food yet. Coffee is not a meal. If I'm not mistaken, I think you need something. Coffee is can be part of the meal, but cannot be a meal. Is that so, maybe? If I can clarify more on that also. With regard to what Hamza said also, I was curious that the cost of Robusta, I said that earlier on, coffee was, you blend Robusta and Robusta to make a profit, to make up some money. But now what he said, though, there is no more need to blend these coffees. That's the main question which I was asking earlier also. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a good point. Because normally the people think there is a fight between Arabica and Canefras. I disagree. I think there a marketing for Arabicas, it's the marketing for Canefras. In Brazil, we are seeing a good phenomenon. The people is drinking single Canefras, single Conilon, single Robusta, single Arabicas. It's coffee. It's coffee. All the time it's coffee. It's a very complicated point because when we decide to talk this in a world, in a coffee supply chain world, the situation gonna change, of course, because we are talking about for the people in every country, everywhere. So, but I really believe that's possible to drink a single cup of Robusta, a single cup of Conilon, Arabica, Excelsa. Why not? Why we need to blend? If we understand the chemical behind, inside the coffee beans, the chemical composition, the possibilities, why not to use this? Maybe I'm totally wrong, but this is my personal opinion about the trends in Canefras in Brazil, because now the people figure out that's possible to drink a really special to Robusta and Conilons in Brazil, and they are doing this.
I think to add to what Dr. Lucas said, in India, if you go to some of the cafes, you have 100% Robusta brewed and served to you, and you'll never know that you're drinking a cup of Robusta. It's, as he rightly said, it's the way you process your coffee. We always say, understand your varietal. Each varietal is different. Each varietal has got different flavor notes. Understand the varietal, and then embark on this processing journey. I mean, that's what we have understood, and I think that is one of the reasons why we have some great washed Robustas. We have gone into the journey of fine Robustas, and today, I mean, we are experimenting, as Dr. Lucas said, with different types of fermentation, but as he rightly said, a word of caution. Understand your microbiome, understand your varietal, understand your own infrastructure, and then go ahead with the processing. Thank you very much. Thank you. If there is a next question, yes?
Namaskaram. I am Pavitra, and I represent the farmer producer companies of Kodagu district. We have 2 farmer producer companies in 2 taluks. So, madam, I just wanted to know how we could capitalize on fermentation among our farmers and FPOs. You know, we are just starting small, but then how?
I think you asked me a very good question, and this is something where, I have worked with farmer groups earlier. First of all, I think you need to understand, if you have a group of, say, 10 or 15 farmers, first of all, understand each of the farms, understand the varietals on the farms, understand the climatic conditions, understand the shade trees. Now, shade trees also play a very important role, which is what we have understood over the years since we've been cupping our coffees. So you understand the shade pattern, understand this, and understand the age of the plants. we always tend to forget the age of the plants. I think the age of the plants is also important, and the soil conditions. Examine the soil pH, examine the organic carbon content. They all play a major role in the sensory profile of your coffee bean. So first understand the taste of each of those farms and then decide as to how you would go about it. I mean, you may want to do, for example, in the region of Araku, we were doing it, we first understanding each of those cherries, and then we embarked on the type of fermentation that we could do for a particular area, for a particular set of farms, and we would do the fermentation. So that is very important. I mean, just taking the coffee cherries of all the farms, putting it together in a basket and then, trying to pulp it and then start saying, I've done 48 hours of anaerobic fermentation. I must be having great flavors in my cup, which is what I hear from some of the farms. So I think first understand that, and I think you can start the journey. And I'm sure you'll do a great job of it, because Kodagu has some excellent, excellent Robustas. That's been my journey in your region. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Yes, madam.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bao. I'm from Vietnam, so I'm a producer there, Robusta, so I love the talk today, and also working with smallholder farmers to transition to agroforestry. So I have two questions. One is for Mr. Wendy. So I love the approach of paying farmers for ecosystem services. My question is, when it comes to working with your financial partners, what are the proof points that they want from you before they can invest in landscape projects? And the second question is more general in the supply chain. As Robusta is more robust to global warming, do we see US buyers and Europe buyers replacing Arabica with Robusta in the future? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Well, actually, for our approach with the payment environmental services, we actually working with the private sector there, that their main core business is the drinking water. And we have a problem there where the water is deficit in the 2050, according to our research finding. Therefore, it is important for the company, the private sector, to engage with several interventions where they can return the water infiltration in the area location. This is not part of the CSR, so we do have the policy regulation where the government arrange the payment environmental services for the private sector, where it is based on not the charity, but voluntarily. So later on, the private companies will allocate their budget there, as long as they have an agreement with the service provider. In these cases, is the farmer or growers in the location area. It can be, we can create the contract between the private sectors and the growers. But if you want to create the contract, it's supposed to be through the multi-stakeholder forums. In this case, we create or we establish the watershed forum to facilitate the collaboration between the growers and the private sector there. I hope that clarifies.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello. Yeah, hi. Good morning to all. And all your presentations were
Sorry,
really.
can you speak a little louder and tell us who you are?
Yeah, hi. My name is Sandeep. I'm a grower from the smaller district of Hassan. It's not a very, prominent coffee producing district like Kodagu, where Bopana is from, or Chikmagalur. It's the third of the trio in Karnataka. Now, in your presentation, Professor Lucas, you did, indicate, and we all know that climate change is for real. And I recollect that you mentioned that, the existing, Arabicas, those areas are getting warmer. And maybe they would be replaced by the Canaphora. So do you think that Brazil would slowly become a more prominent Canafora producer by the replacement of the Arabicas with the Canaforas?
Thank you for the question. This is a main point. Very important to discuss about this. I think no. I think no, probably no, because there are a lot of scientific projects running in this moment in Brazil to provide the support against climate warming, to introduce the agroforest systems in Arabica coffee plantation, and the people now, they understood that's so important to protect the forest, to make a regenerative agricultural approach. I think this is the balance. It's possible to balance. I think in a few years, we're going to see in the same way, the same extratur Canaforas and Arabicas in Brazil, because in some cases was necessary to replace. Was necessary. But I think today, the Arabica coffee growers in Brazil are studying more and looking for the opportunities like here to use the forest, to use the trees to protect the plants, to protect the soil, to protect the rainfall cycle. And I think that's possible to balance the equation.
Thank you so much.
Morning. My name is Sridev Hulikere, coffee grower from Chikmagalur. Sorry, I walked in a little late. I hope this hasn't been answered. If not, sir, we're talking about growing Robustas. We're also talking about sustainability through circular economy, regenerative. It's very tempting for us to grow Robusta. Arabicas, we're finding it very difficult. I'm trying to convert one of my blocks into a Robusta block as well. Buyers of coffee, are they looking at offsetting Robusta grown under shade? Are you looking at it from now? Because if you say start growing Robusta everywhere, all of us are very tempted as a coffee grower to start growing Robusta everywhere. But if you say, listen, we'll buy Robustas that are grown under shade, under sustainable methods, we'll do something to help you all, it'll be a lot more helpful and a lot more clearer to us. I hope I'm not repeating myself. Thank you. It's an open question to anybody, ma'am.
I think you've asked a very difficult question. I mean, it's like asking me which comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So I think, you can't possibly ask the buyer to give us more just because we grow it under shade unless you change the mindset. And that is what is happening today. There is a change of mindset to some extent where, they're willing to pay you, provided the quality in the cup, the quality of your beans is good. You can't take any bean and say, now I've grown it under shade, I've done this, I've done that, so will you pay me a higher price? It all depends on the intrinsic quality of your coffee. And that's where the entire base starts from your varietal. You first understand your varietal, carry out your processing very carefully, make sure you use, you harvest only ripe red cherries. That's another point that you could, touch upon, selective picking, hand picking. Well, you could even use that as a selling point, but then the buyer will pay you the additional price provided you have a good cup of coffee. Does anyone else in this panel would like to throw any light on this? Or have I answered your question, Mr. Hulikere? Yeah? You're going to convert your entire farm to Robustas? Okay, thank you. Yes.
Ma'am, good morning. Good morning to all the panelists. My name is Hariharan. I work in the transportation sector, basically maritime transportation. But I'm more of a coffee enthusiast. My question is to Mr. Kailash Nathani and also another question to Mr. Amir Hamza. My first question is, sir, Mr. Kailash Nathani, you had explained why the negative correlation between supply and demand in the coming years and Arabica and the relation between Arabica and Robusta. Now, sir, would you be kind enough to tell me, I mean, I observed in Mr. Wendy's presentation that 98.6% of the production comes from plantations, small plantations. So what percentage does a grower or a plantation owner make in India or maybe the average around the world as compared to what price prevails in the commodity exchanges? That's my question number one. Going on from that, my second question to Mr. Amir Hamza is, knowing that India is probably 8th, 9th largest producer of coffee, and about 60-70% of which is Robusta. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. So how does India pivot from the present position? I mean, what do we need in India to become maybe in the top 3 nations or maybe the top 5 nations, even if it is predominantly Robusta? So that's my question. Or if any other panel would like to add, I'd be happy to listen. Thank you.
I couldn't understand.
Could you please loudly speak your first question?
My first question was, sir, what percentage, or rather what is a small grower or a plantation or a farmer, does he realize in hand as opposed to what is trading in the commodity exchanges? That is, the coffee's price in the commodity exchange vis-a-vis what a farmer or a plantation owner makes per bag or per metric ton, whatsoever the metric may be. Thank you.
Very good question. This question is raised not only here but in many other forums, that how much a farmer gets out of his coffee which is sold in a cup or something like that. Although here it is different question, but almost the same, similar. See, first of all, it depends on the quality. But let's say if you are taking out of standard quality, as of today, if you are taking India's case, farmer is getting almost $300 per metric ton above the terminal price for his coffee in his hand. So this is what is happening. So just giving an example, terminal is about $2,500, but the standard coffee, which is Cherry AB, Robusta, Cherry AB is trading around, say, $3,000. So the farmer is getting around $2,800 in his pocket. So this is about, say, 92%, 93% is coming in the hands of the, But if you are comparing with a cup in a resto or in a coffee shop, then it's a complicated kind of, calculation, because a lot of other supply chain cost is there and other preparations are there. So, but yes, if you are talking about only green coffee, in India, the percentage in hands of the farmer is about 92% to 93%. And in other origins also, like in Africa, it is about between 75 to 80%. Same thing, I guess, for Brazil as well, 93 to 94% there in Brazil as well.
Could you ask the second question? There's a little bit of not much of clarity. You addressed it to Mr. Amir Hamza, right? What was the question, sir? Just 1 minute, I think we'll get the microphone. If you could just hold it closer to your, yeah?
Yes, ma'am. My question was, today India is probably the 8th or 9th largest coffee producing nation, and with predominantly Robusta being the variety. So I saw Mr. Amir Hamza being very passionate about Robusta, and he was very enthusiastic. So what radical change or what predominantly needs to be done in India to pivot from today's position to a top 3 or a top 5 nation in the world? Maybe we consume a lot of coffee, or we actually don't consume a lot of coffee in India. But even if we don't consume, but how do we pivot from present position to a top 3 or a top 5 coffee producing nation? What changes do we need to do?
What are the changes that you will envisage if you want to raise the bar for Indian coffee to rise from maybe the 7th position to right up to the 4th or the 5th position in the world market? What do you think the changes that need to be made? You've seen the farms, so he'd like to know.
I think, first of all, India is on the right track. The way I saw at the podium at the opening of the World Coffee Conference, first thing which impressed me was that more than 50% of the podium seats were taken up by the Indian processors of soluble coffee. And from my experience, Most of those soluble coffee factories are importing coffee from outside and then exporting again the value-added coffee. So India is already exporting its coffee and it's a hot cake everywhere. And there is no, from my point of view, there is no single taste which will be accepted by everybody. There is a niche market for every coffee. You talk of monsoon coffees from India, and you take it, because I was in one of the conferences, I think in SCA or somewhere there, in Ayako, in Kampala, and there was one presenter who said, I'm a farmer from South America, and I've got my best coffees I'm selling to a Swedish roaster. But when I went there and I asked him which is the best coffee, and he said it's monsoon coffees from India. So he said, can I have a cup of that coffee? And when he drank the coffee, he said, oh, this is not to my taste. But the roaster told him this is the highest selling coffee in Sweden, in his roastery. So every area has got its own niche markets, and you have to look at where you want to export that coffee. You go to Somalia, you find the people there, they prefer more black beans. BBs are the main market for Somalia. You come to our coastal areas in East Africa, you find people sipping the very dark roasted Turkish type of coffee. The way I presented in the picture, there was somebody with a coffee kettle pouring into small cup on the streets. Those people, they drink coffee which is Robusta and low-grade Robusta, and it's dark roast. One day we had a case of theft of double A coffees from some company, and it ended up somewhere on the street. So the guys roasted and gave it to their local consumers, and they were complaining that it's too sweet. It's too sweet, and in Kiswahili we say, kawa kwa ajili ya kina mama. That is, I'm sorry to say that, but they said this is for ladies to drink this coffee. It's not that strong. So they were finding something like Aereo, something like quinine putting in that coffee. So you see, there is no coffee which is bad, but it depends on the niche market where you want to sell this coffee. You go to Vietnam, you find the taste is different. You go to South Africa, you find South Africans are drinking chicory mixed with starch, maltodextrin. And I went one day to, I think it was in Malaysia, and I took my soluble coffee there to a blender and who was packing that. And when he tested it, it's too good coffee, but I cannot put in my market. My people are not for this type of coffee. So it depends on where you are exporting, and you'll get better price for your coffee, whatever the way you produce it, but you have to have marketing techniques. And I believe that Indians are very good at marketing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Mrs. Menon, if I may go back to that earlier question which Mr. Hulikare asked about, Arabica, Robusta, conversions, and so on. One of the points which I notice more and more is everyone talks about carbon credits and carbon sequestration and all of that. What's surprising is that, as we all know, the Indian coffee sector has got one of the best agroforestry-based coffee producing areas, and you've got a very good point that we don't get recognized for it. And everyone talks about carbon credits, but what about those who are already doing a great job at it? Why don't you incentivize them? I get your point about the quality and the cup and all of that, but we also need to look at what we are doing for the environment, and there has to be a certain recognition of that. And when people come and speak at these conferences from all over the place and multilateral agencies, there never is a sort of a connection between how do you incentivize those origins and those growers who are already doing a phenomenal job in protecting the environment. So I'm just curious as to your thoughts on that.
Let me answer that question. Yes, we have a lot of shade trees. But my question is, have you ever studied what is the carbon credit that we get for our particular farm? Have you ever done that study? That's something I've been telling all the farmers. First of all, do a study, understand your shade trees, because each shade tree has a different, absorption of carbon dioxide and releasing of oxygen. So have you ever studied that? I mean, you need to have data to go and ask in the market,
pay me something more because I have an added advantage. A shade tree can be seen physically. So yes, we have that advantage because whoever is buying your coffee can see the shade trees. But then if I keep saying, you know, carbon sequestration, et cetera, I don't have absolute data. You need to have the data to present it and demand the price. And that's what I think we need to embark on, that journey. That journey is somehow put to the sideline. We talk about it, but we've never implemented. And I think, Mr. Bopanna, you're the first one to start that study. I think by next year, at the next, hopefully, not maybe at WCC, because it's every once in 5 years, but I'm sure at the next conference, I mean, may not be in Ethiopia, but you know, it's too early, but maybe the next conference, the World Conference, where some other part of the world, we need to have that data. Once you have the data, talk from the rooftops. Thank you. Is there any other question? Yes.
And thank you very much for the opportunity. I am a coffee producer in Colombia. My question goes to Professor Lucas, because probably he knows more the Colombian case. We only produce Arabica in Colombia. But there is actually a trend, a pressure of the market, and actually Nestlé is doing some research in different areas of Colombia with some Robusta materials. My question is probably difficult to answer, but I want to know your opinion about Colombia producing Robusta. Do you see Colombia in the future producing Robusta?
So 3 weeks ago, maybe the people could start a war in Brazil because some agreement between Colombia and Brazilian government about to share some coniferous material for Colombia breeders studying. And obviously, the Brazilian dislike this, Brazilian people, because normally we are looking to protect our fence. So, my personal opinion, why not? Why not to share? Why not to study, to work together? I think if there is a demand in the world to increase the consumption of specialty coffees, why not? Why not? If Brazil decide to increase the coffee production, we're gonna produce 100 million of bags. That's completely possible to do this. But we need to understand the other aspects behind the supply chain. The cultural system, the protected of the environmental, the marketing, the price, the style of consumption. And I think it's better to make agreement to study in a correct way, to select the best materials, because in some cases the Brazilian guys are looking for geishas from Panama, looking for some coffee varietals from Africa. Why not to share the knowledge? I'm a scientist, and as a scientist I need to say this. Probably my colleagues in Brazil don't like this approach this way, but unfortunately it's very important to share the knowledge, to learn together, and to compete together, because I think we are looking for most people drink coffee in different parts in the world and make the coffee better all the time.
Thank you, Dr. Lucas. Are there any other questions? I just have one question to Dr. Lucas. We just have a few minutes. Did you check the Brix content of the cherry fruit, the Robustas, taken for the experiments on fermentation? That is one. And does it play a role in the step of fermentation, and thus, of course, in the sensory profile of Robusta coffee? Also, I wanted to ask you about the pH. At what pH level was the experimentation on fermentation stopped?
This is a good question. Normally, in my lab, we are not looking for the bricks at the beginning of the fermentation. Why? In the beginning, there are a lot of sucrose. When the sucrose touch the water, there is an enzyme inside the water. The name is invertase. Invertase break the sucrose and provide glucose or fructose. And the bricks can provide the information about the quantity of sucrose, fructose, or glucose. So it's so important to understand the content about the sugar to decide how long time, which microorganism we're gonna put inside the tank, yeast or bacteria, to balance the fermentation processing. So for us, it's very important to quantify the different levels of sugar before, during, and after to conclude the fermentation. But the pH, it's a very important parameter to study because normally we start the fermentation with 5.2, 5.1 pH, and after 7 120 hours, the pH drops to 3.8, 3.9.
Oh, I see.
And in my case, in my lab, we are using just 5 days to do the fermentation processing because the safe security protocol don't provide the opportunity for the bad microorganisms to make some problems in the fermentation processing. In some cases, the people are making fermentation for 20 days, 15 days. I'm not sure about this because we need to study more. We need to understand more the secondary metabolites that the fermentation are producing. And we discovered with the 5 days in 38 Celsius degree in an aerobic condition to control the pressure, the temperature, it's possible to create a very interesting sensorial profile for coniferous in Brazil. And we are making this all the time. Study more, of course, but for now, I'd like to recommend this methodology.
Thank you very much because, sometimes I keep hearing the farmers in my country saying, I've done it for 25 days and 30 days, and I'm just wondering whether I'm drinking a whole lot of bacteria or whether I'm drinking a cup of coffee. Thank you very much for answering that question. Thank you. There are no other questions. I'd like to wrap up this very interesting morning session on the growing importance of Robusta and coffee blends. I'd like to conclude this session with the Japanese philosophy of Kaizen. Kaizen means good change or continuous improvement. I think the Robusta bean could be the start of a good change, a change where we change our mindsets about the Robusta bean, a change where we look at the intrinsic value of the Robusta bean, highlighting its positives and negating the negatives through absolute care from the fruit to the cup. So thank you very much for attending this session, and I'd like to thank all the presenters today. I think you've brewed a great cup of Robusta coffee this morning. Thank you very much. Thank you.
On behalf of WCC, once again, I'd like to thank all the panelists and the chair for being here and sharing their thoughts. I request the audience to wait for another 15 seconds while we honor our panelists. I request Dr. Sudha M., Divisional Head, Plant Pathology, Central Coffee Research Institute, to kindly do the honors. To Ms. Sunalini Menon, the session chair, a big round of applause. Her depth and breadth of knowledge is absolutely mesmerizing. So thank you, ma'am. To Mr. Amir Hazra, Chairman, African Fine Coffees Association. A round of applause, please, to each one of them. Thank you, sir, for being with us this morning. Mr. Kailash Nathani, Managing Director, Sukafina. Many thanks to you, sir. To Mr. Wendy Mohammed. To Mr. Wendy Mohammed, Technical Project Officer, Agriculture, SNB. Finally, Professor Lucas Luzauda Pereira, who is researcher, Federal Institute of Espírito Santo. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Sudha M. has been doing the honors. She's the divisional head, Plant Pathology, Central Coffee Research Institute. A big round of applause to everybody. Thank you, ma'am. The next session here will begin